my name is Lindsay Bridenthal, and I am a painter here in Wenatchee. And my connection to Collapse Gallery is that I rent a space in the basement, so I come upstairs all the time, and this is just a beautiful space to be able to put a show together.
My name is Amber Zimmerman, and I am an artist kind of in the outskirts of Leavenworth. I worked with Lindsay at the Forest Service many, many years ago, and we worked outside together in nature, and it was wonderful. And then we lost connection, and then we refound each other at a farmer's market, and we realized she was a working artist, I'm a working artist, we're both moms, we're doing our best to kind of navigate the art world on Eastern Washington. And so she was a natural person to reach out to and say, hey, I'm feeling like we need connection, we need a healing. We've had so much division, we need a big healing. And I think we should organize a show together or do something together.
So Amber and I spoke in the fall of 2020, I think. And I think we were some of the first people to kind of be around each other in the art world and start talking about, in the local art scene, start talking about the next show and kind of what we might want to do and what would be a really nice counterbalance to the things we've been feeling and kind of this energy of reaction. So we threw around a few themes, intuition, connection, all of these things that we've really been wanting to get back to, and kind of a more of a soothing sense started to bubble up in our conversations, and remedy just seemed to come out of that. And the artists that we had in mind, a lot of them have themes of plants and earth and animals. It's a very earthy kind of group here. So I think remedy was something that we could all respond to. Kind of intuitively, women tend to be healers, they tend to be the soothers, they tend to bring the people together, at least in our families and the people that we know. So the artists that we thought of, we invited. This wasn't a juried show, and their work represented a lot of what we wanted to see come out of this last year and what we wanted, the direction we wanted to head, just kind of personally.
Being a pandemic, we wanted to keep this very smaller and local because we weren't sure logistically how it was going to work out with gathering pieces and how the show would go, if we'd be able to do a reception or not in person, and all those things, because we were planning this so far out. Amazingly enough, all the women artists that we really wanted to invite happened to be Eastern Washington women.
We have glass here and woodworking and fiber arts and ceramics and watercolor and oil, and it's a really nice mix of the different mediums. And I think we really did want to see kind of how each of those mediums and the different artists' perspective would think of remedy. They'd bring their own edge to it. When I think of a remedy, I think of something that's off the top of my head. I think of a plant remedy. I make a lot of my own plant remedies for my family, but the more I started to read into the action of remedy and the things that I might be doing even in the making of a remedy, those also go into it. You don't kind of have an end product that's a remedy, but it's kind of the whole process. I created one in particular for this remedy show, and it's 4 10x10s, and they all feature a really bright flower, which is kind of supposed to be a flower that represents all plants. I don't really start with the exact idea of what I want to do. I just start going. I might have that idea of the remedy theme in the back of my head, but I don't really want it to be too directed. So the coming to your senses came out of that, and it had to incorporate plants and touching things and listening to things and connecting to the plants and the natural world. It has a lot to do with kind of coming out of your shell again, kind of making this transition during spring, back to life, back to more of a sensual feeling that I think we were all feeling really closed up and restrained and like we couldn't touch each other or be around each other. So this was sort of getting to that. A lot of times I'll put imagery into a painting that represents people, but this one also represents the plant world. I think it's just being around other beings and having that kind of help you coming back to your sensual self. The other piece I created for a show just prior to this is called Small Tub, and that was made just during the thick of our shutdown. It has to do with shutting yourself into a small room in your own house so you can get some time alone. And I'm sure a lot of us did that live with many other people. It was just to get some head space, you kind of had to find these funny little out-of-the-way corners and closets and tubs to get into, and I was feeling very shut in and claustrophobic, so that's kind of what that painting represents.
I really reached deep into my my tool bag for what's soothing and relieving to me personally. I kind of took a little bit more of like not a actual action remedy, like curing a wound, but to soothe the soul kind of a remedy. I chose to do glass primarily. I've discovered a really great new technology with fused glass paints that are environmentally friendly. So I paint on the glass and then I fire them multiple times and the images are burned in, right? They're part of the piece. And the luminosity of the glass feels very healing. So that medium just felt like the right medium to go with for a theme of remedy. I've kind of played off of, yes, there is some plant medicine referenced in some of my imagery, but also animal medicine, ancestral medicine, meditation, and the soothing balm of connection represented through sisterhood in one of my pieces. So this is my sisterhood piece. I love circles. Yeah, I've had that piece of leather my whole life. I thought I'd use it for this piece. I like how it kind of grounds the bottom line.
Beach dress. It's about going to the beach. The ocean makes me feel really small, but I love it.
For this show, I specifically chose themes that are time spent with myself. So sort of shutting out the world, as simple as like leaving my phone in another room, or as complex as driving to the ocean by myself to stare into the vastness. But my happy place is large bodies of water, and I'm like most peace sitting on a paddleboard in the middle of a lake by myself. Like that's my happy place. There's the night swimmer, which is a raccoon. I love night swimming. Maybe part of that danger / releasing control a little bit. My artist statement says that I'm a queer night bird with a complicated relationship with danger.
It's definitely mixed media. So colored pencil is sort of like outlines. They were like initially in the waves in the tail here. And then the gouache is like the different colors of, I'm touching the artwork, the different colors. And then anything above water is watercolor.
I was really excited to be able to use this stuff called Watercolor Ground. And it's a base that you paint on wood, and you're able to paint watercolor on any surface. For me, I love mixed media, but I also love sort of the magic of watercolor. And I think that there's a beauty in it that, in a way that it sort of moves on its own and creates these subtleties that, like acrylic paint or painting murals, like the paint doesn't move, like you put it there and it's there. But with watercolor, you have to release control a little bit and sort of let the magic happen. And I think that my work includes a lot of nature, and I love sort of the small subtleties.
Originally, when I started this, it was going to be all fabric. That was going to be its purity, and then it was like, we could throw a bone in there, or we could make chicken feet, and add this. And since this was such a personal piece, I just decided not to worry about it and to just put what I wanted into it. And I think it makes for more impressive work.
My pieces are based around some self-work that I did with a group out of the UK, a group of women. We were working on Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes' Women Who Run with the Wolves book. I've been experiencing a lot of angst about everything that's been going on socially as far as social justice, equality, the environment, and then the pandemic, and was experiencing a lot of artist block. And I found this group and stopped producing artwork for shows and just started doing artwork based on the fairy tales that we were working with. And when Amber got a hold of me about the show, it just hit the perfect note. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to make some work. And then I started realizing that I had been creating work. It was just very personal work. But it was very healing work, and I found that this invitation allowed me to bring the work out and show a more personal side of myself. The first piece I did was the Baba Yaga house. I started reading the tale, and I could picture in my mind her house and had this need to create it. It took me forever. I took a long time, wasn't even worried about how it turned out or for show or price or anything like that, and just got into it. It was very meditative. And that led me to this group. I had put it up on my Instagram and had a hashtag, and this group in the UK found me through my Baba Yaga hashtag. And they were like, hey, we're studying all of these, do you want to join us? And that led me into my other pieces, which is La Loba with the bones, which is La Loba in her cave, gathering up all our bones and recreating the person again. So it's based on kind of a dream of all the bones swirling around. And my other piece is from the Handless Maiden. She, in the tale in Women Who Run with the Wolves, she has a juicy pear. And I told the group that I just didn't, coming from Washington State, pears they were kind of boring to me and weren't juicy, and everybody was like, well, choose another fruit then. And I was like, I'm going with a pomegranate, a juicy palm. So I created my juicy palm and was able to put some symbols in it that meant a lot to me. Corey is showing personal work. She's a graphic artist.
It's like my only one. Well, I've dabbled in watercolor, but yeah. I was asked to join in with this show by Lindsay. I kind of feel like she wanted to challenge me and get me to put something in and push my kind of creative boundaries, maybe. I don't know, but I'm happy she did. And it was a big step for me. Being uncomfortable and being challenged is a remedy for me. I find that when I'm the most uncomfortable and the most challenged is when I am more at peace with my life. This is kind of my representation of that. My piece today in the show is called Tough Love. It's primarily watercolor, but it's also been it's almost kind of like sculptural or put together with metal and mounted on wood. I'm a graphic designer, and so I'm so used to working within kind of the constraints that graphic design kind of puts in front of you. And with this, it was like wide open. You have this prompt that can be personal for everybody, and how do you kind of interpret that? And the way that I kind of did that was maybe by falling back on some of my graphic design tendencies and sticking with symbolism that I had kind of been ruminating on. Also kind of falling back on some of like the book arts things that I'd done in college, and layout things like with grid. And so kind of breaking it down like that was helpful. I also sew, and this idea of piecing something together is something I'm really comfortable with. And it almost comes across as like this kind of spiky quilt or something like that.
Being in nature is really inspiring, and so that really ties into my piece. I contributed 3 pieces to this show, and they're all about insects. I really wanted to magnify the microcosms of insects. They live in these beautiful worlds, and I think humans tend to not relate to them a lot because they are structured so differently than we are. All of these creatures look kind of alien to us, but they have these superpowers. There's these ways that they have, I want to say, like personalities and different attributes about them that are kind of foreign to us. And when we can start seeing their sentience, then we as humans can connect with the natural world. If we can have a connection with these animals, then we are able to just feel more connected, less lonely, and that to me is the remedy.